Introduction. The invisible intelligence. Welcome to this deep exploration of intuition, one of the most misunderstood yet powerful capabilities of the human mind. Over the next 2 hours, we'll journey into the science, mechanics, and practical applications of your brain's subconscious pattern recognition system. Intuition is not mystical. It is not random. It is your brain's sophisticated early warning system, trained by every experience you've ever had, working tirelessly beneath your conscious awareness. By the end of this exploration, you'll understand not just what intuition is, but how to recognize it, strengthen it, and use it wisely in your daily life. Let's begin. Part 1. Understanding INTUITION, what intuition actually is. Intuition arrives quietly. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare or logical arguments. Instead, it presents as a sense, a subtle knowing that feels complete even without explanation. For centuries, intuition was dismissed as unscientific, emotional, or unreliable. It was associated with fortune tellers and gut feelings that couldn't be trusted. But modern neuroscience has revealed something remarkable. Intuition is not magic. It is intelligence working beneath awareness. Your brain is an extraordinary pattern recognition machine. Every moment of your life, it's learning, comparing, detecting signals in your environment. Most of this processing happens silently, outside your conscious awareness. Intuition is what emerges when your brain reaches a conclusion before your conscious mind catches up. Think of it this way: your conscious mind is like the narrator of your life story, explaining what's happening. But your subconscious is the actual author, writing the story in real time, drawing from a vast library of experiences and patterns you've accumulated throughout your entire life. The evolutionary origins. Long before humans developed language, long before we could reason through problems step by step, the brain was already making decisions. Our ancestors needed to quickly assess situations. Is this plant safe to eat? Is that shadow a predator? Can I trust this person? Those who developed better pattern recognition survived. Those who could quickly sense danger, opportunity, or deception passed on their genes. Intuition is an evolutionary gift, refined over millions of years. Your intuitive capacity is ancient. It evolved to process information faster than conscious thought because speed often meant the difference between life and death. Even today, though our environment has changed dramatically, this system continues to serve us. Intuition in modern life. Today, intuition shows up in countless ways. A hiring manager meets a candidate with perfect credentials, but something feels off. Years later, they discover their intuition was right. The person wasn't a good fit for the team culture. An investor reviews a business proposal that looks profitable on paper, but feels uneasy. Their intuition has detected subtle patterns in the language or presentation that suggest hidden risks. A parent senses something is wrong with their child, even though nothing obvious has changed. Their brain has picked up on microexpressions, tone shifts, or behavioral patterns too subtle for conscious notice. A creative professional suddenly knows the solution to a problem they've been wrestling with for weeks. The answer arrives fully formed, as if from nowhere. These aren't magical moments. They're your brain presenting conclusions based on vast amounts of subconscious processing. Part 2. The architecture of the MIND, the two systems framework. To understand intuition, we need to understand how the mind is structured. Cognitive scientists describe two distinct but interconnected systems operating in your brain. System 1 is fast, automatic, and operates without conscious effort. It's always on, constantly processing your environment. It recognizes faces instantly, detects emotions and voices, jumps to conclusions, and generates impressions. This system is effortless. You don't have to try to use it. It simply runs in the background of your awareness. System 1 is responsible for immediate pattern recognition, intuitive feelings and impressions, automatic responses to familiar situations, emotional reactions, skilled actions you've practiced extensively. System 2 is slow, deliberate, and requires conscious effort. It's what you're using when you solve a complex math problem, compare products carefully before buying, or think through the implications of a major decision. This system is powerful but limited. You can only hold a few concepts in conscious awareness at once. System 2 handles complex calculations, logical reasoning, deliberate choices, critical analysis, learning new skills. Intuition belongs primarily to System 1. It's the result of your fast, automatic processing system detecting patterns and sending signals to your conscious awareness. How the systems interact. These two systems don't work in isolation. They collaborate constantly, though we're rarely aware of the interaction. System 1 generates impressions, feelings, and intuitions continuously. System 2 can choose to endorse these impressions, turning them into beliefs and voluntary actions. Or it can override them with deliberate reasoning. When you're driving a familiar route, System 1 handles most of the work, steering, accelerating, monitoring other cars. Your System 2 is free to think about other things, perhaps planning your day or continuing a conversation. But if something unexpected happens, System 2 immediately engages to handle the new situation. The best decisions often come when both systems work together. System 1 quickly narrows down options based on pattern recognition. System 2 then carefully evaluates those options using logic and analysis. Problems arise when we rely too heavily on one system. Pure intuition without reflection can lead to biased decisions based on incomplete patterns. Pure analysis without intuitive input can lead to overthinking and paralysis, missing important signals your subconscious has detected. The subconscious processing power. Your conscious mind is impressively limited. Research suggests you can hold about 4 to 7 pieces of information in working memory at once. Try to juggle more than that, and things start dropping. Your subconscious, however, processes an estimated 11 million pieces of information per second. This vast processing power is why you can walk down a busy street while simultaneously maintaining balance, monitoring traffic, recognizing faces, listening to music, thinking about dinner plans, detecting potential threats, navigating obstacles. All of this happens effortlessly because your subconscious handles the complexity. Intuition emerges when this processing detects something meaningful enough to alert your conscious awareness. Part 3. The mechanics of pattern, RECOGNITIO, and how experience becomes pattern. Every experience you have creates traces in your brain. These traces contain rich information. Emotional tone. How did this situation feel? Pleasant, threatening, exciting, boring? Context. Where were you? Who was present? What time of day? What preceded this moment? Sensory details. What did you see, hear, smell, taste, touch? The brain captures far more sensory information than you consciously notice. Outcomes. What happened next? What were the consequences? These traces aren't stored as discrete memories you can easily recall, like files on a computer. Instead, they're stored as connections between neurons, as weighted relationships in vast neural networks. The brain builds an internal model of reality, continuously updated with each new experience. The pattern library. Over time, your brain accumulates millions of these experiential patterns. When you encounter a new situation, your brain instantly compares it against this massive library. This comparison happens at extraordinary speed, far faster than conscious thought. If the new situation matches patterns associated with danger, your brain triggers an alert before you can consciously identify why. This is why you might suddenly feel uneasy in a situation that appears normal on the surface. The matching process is sophisticated. Your brain doesn't just look for identical situations, it recognizes abstract similarities. A pattern learned in one context can apply to completely different circumstances. For example, someone who learned as a child to read their alcoholic parents' mood from subtle cues, a particular tone of voice, a certain way of moving, might find themselves unusually skilled at reading emotional undercurrents in business negotiations. The specific context changed, but the pattern recognition skill transferred. Why intuition can't always explain itself. Here's a crucial point. Intuition often can't explain its own reasoning. This isn't a bug, it's a feature. The patterns your subconscious recognizes are too complex, too interconnected, and too numerous to translate into the linear, language-based format of conscious thought. Your intuition might detect that 100 small details about a situation match patterns associated with deception, but your conscious mind receives only the conclusion, something feels wrong. This is why people often say things like, "I just had a feeling," or "I can't explain it, but I knew." They're accurately describing the experience. The conclusion arrived without the reasoning being accessible to consciousness. This characteristic of intuition leads many people to distrust it. We're taught to value explanations, to show our work, to justify our reasoning. Intuition can't do this, which makes it seem unreliable. But the inability to explain doesn't make intuition wrong. It simply reflects the different processing architecture of the subconscious mind. The speed advantage. Intuition's speed is one of its greatest assets. In situations requiring quick decisions, deliberate analysis is too slow. Consider a driver who suddenly swerves to avoid an accident. There's no time to consciously think through the physics of the collision, calculate trajectories, or weigh options. The driver's intuition processes the pattern instantly and initiates action before conscious awareness catches up. Professional athletes operate largely on intuition during competition. A basketball player doesn't consciously calculate angles and trajectories when shooting. Their brain has learned the pattern through thousands of hours of practice. The shot feels right or it doesn't. This speed comes from the parallel processing architecture of the subconscious. While conscious thought works sequentially, handling one step at a time, subconscious processing evaluates thousands of patterns simultaneously. Part 4. The role of emotion intuitio and emotion as information. One of the most important insights from neuroscience is that emotion is not the opposite of rationality. Emotion is information. It's a sophisticated signaling system that helps your brain mark experiences as important, dangerous, valuable, or worthy of attention. The emotional centers of your brain, particularly the amygdala and related structures, are deeply involved in pattern recognition and memory formation. When you experience something emotionally significant, your brain essentially highlights that experience, making the associated patterns more accessible for future reference. This is why traumatic experiences create such powerful intuitions. Your brain marks the patterns associated with trauma as critically important to avoid. Similarly, positive emotions mark patterns associated with safety, reward, or opportunity. Why intuition feels the way it does. Intuition often arrives with an emotional quality precisely because of emotion's role in pattern recognition. The emotional component isn't contaminating a pure rational process. It's an integral part of how the signal reaches your conscious awareness. When your subconscious detects a meaningful pattern, it doesn't just send an abstract conclusion to consciousness. It sends an emotionally tagged signal. A gut feeling combines the pattern recognition with physical sensations, tension, relaxation, excitement, unease. These bodily sensations are the brain's way of making the signal impossible to ignore. Sudden clarity often comes with a feeling of rightness, a sense of pieces falling into place. This emotional quality reflects the brain's confidence in the pattern match. Quiet certainty carries a calm, neutral emotional tone. This often indicates a well-established pattern your brain has encountered many times before. The somatic marker hypothesis. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio proposed the somatic marker hypothesis, which explains how the brain uses body states to guide decision-making. According to this theory, when you face a decision, your brain quickly simulates the outcomes of different options. Each simulated outcome generates a subtle body state, a somatic marker. Negative outcomes produce uncomfortable body states. Tension, unease, that sinking feeling in your stomach. Positive outcomes produce pleasant states. Relaxation, expansiveness, a feeling of lightness. These somatic markers guide your decisions, often below conscious awareness. You might not consciously remember why a particular choice feels wrong, but your body remembers the patterns associated with similar choices in the past. This is the physiological basis of gut feelings. Your gut literally participates in the intuitive process through the extensive neural connections between your brain and your enteric nervous system. Emotion without overwhelm. While emotion is essential to intuition, it's important to distinguish intuitive emotional signals from emotional overwhelm. True intuition carries emotion but isn't overwhelming. It informs without demanding. It suggests without insisting. You feel it, but you can also think around it, examining it from different angles. Emotional overwhelm, by contrast, floods your system. It demands immediate action. It shuts down reflective thought. This is your stress response activating, not your intuition guiding you. Learning to recognize this difference is crucial for using intuition effectively. Part 5. The development of intuitive expertise, the novice mind. When you're learning something new, intuition is largely absent. Everything requires conscious attention and deliberate effort. A new driver thinks carefully about each action. Check mirrors, signal, adjust speed, turn the wheel. Every step requires System 2's effortful processing. At this stage, intuition hasn't developed because the brain hasn't yet formed the necessary patterns. The novice lacks the experiential database that makes pattern recognition possible. This is why beginners benefit from explicit rules and step-by-step procedures. Without intuitive pattern recognition, they need conscious guidelines to navigate new territory. The journey to expertise. As experience accumulates, something remarkable happens. Actions that once required intense concentration become automatic. Patterns that were invisible become obvious. Intuition begins to emerge. This transformation occurs through a process called chunking. The brain groups related information into larger units, freeing up conscious processing capacity. What once required managing dozens of separate details becomes one smooth, automatic action. Consider learning to read. Initially, children laboriously sound out each letter, consciously combining them into words. With practice, words become recognized as wholes. Eventually, entire phrases are processed automatically. Expert readers don't think about reading. They simply read, their intuition effortlessly extracting meaning from text. The same process occurs in every domain of expertise. Chess masters see board positions as meaningful patterns, not collections of individual pieces. Experienced doctors recognize disease patterns from subtle combinations of symptoms. Skilled therapists detect emotional dynamics others miss. The 10-year rule. Research on expertise consistently finds that world-class performance in any complex domain requires approximately 10 years of intensive, deliberate practice. This isn't a random number. It reflects the time needed for the brain to accumulate sufficient patterns for reliable intuition. 10,000 hours of experience creates a rich database of patterns, allowing for rapid, accurate intuitive judgments. The expert's intuition isn't mystical. It's the natural result of extensive pattern learning. This is why you should trust the intuitions of experienced professionals in their domain. An experienced pilot's gut feeling about weather conditions, a veteran teacher's sense that a student is struggling, a seasoned entrepreneur's unease about a business deal. These intuitions are based on thousands of hours of relevant pattern exposure. Domain specificity. A crucial point. Intuitive expertise is domain-specific. Being an expert in one area doesn't make your intuitions reliable in unrelated domains. A brilliant physicist may have no useful intuition about social dynamics. A skilled surgeon may have poor financial intuition. A gifted musician may struggle with navigating bureaucracy. This is because intuition depends on accumulated patterns in specific domains. Your brain's pattern recognition works only as well as its database of relevant experiences. This principle has important implications. Be cautious about trusting your intuitions outside your areas of experience. Recognize when you're operating in domains where you're a novice, and seek input from those with relevant expertise. Maintaining and expanding intuitive skills. Intuition isn't static. It requires maintenance and continues to develop throughout life. Your intuitive accuracy improves when you seek feedback. Pay attention to the outcomes of your intuitive decisions. When your intuition was right, what patterns did you detect? When it was wrong, what did you miss? This feedback loop refines your pattern recognition. Stay engaged. Continued exposure to your domain of expertise keeps patterns fresh and updates them with new information. Taking breaks from your field can lead to intuitive rust. Challenge yourself. Operating at the edge of your abilities, where you're still learning and occasionally failing, strengthens intuition more than staying in your comfort zone. Cross-train. Exposure to related domains can enrich your pattern recognition. A manager who studies psychology gains better people intuition. A programmer who learns about business develops better product intuition. Reflect deeply. Taking time to consciously analyze your experiences helps consolidate patterns, making them more accessible to intuition later. Part 6. The obstacles: too clear intuition, stress and the narrowed mind. Stress is intuition's enemy. When you're stressed, your brain shifts into a different mode of operation, one optimized for immediate survival rather than subtle pattern recognition. Under stress, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for complex thinking and accessing stored patterns, becomes partially offline. Your amygdala, the emotional alarm system, takes over. Your thinking narrows, focusing only on immediate threats and opportunities. This stress response evolved to handle physical dangers requiring immediate action. When facing a predator, you don't need access to subtle intuitions about social dynamics or complex problem solving. You need quick, simple action: fight, flee, or freeze. But modern stress rarely involves physical predators. Instead, we face chronic stressors: work pressure, relationship conflicts, financial worries, information overload. These keep your brain in a semi-stress state, partially blocking access to your intuitive capabilities. This is why important insights often arrive after stress subsides. When you finally relax, the mental noise quiets, and signals from your subconscious can rise to conscious awareness. The noise of modern life. Contemporary life floods us with stimulation. Constant notifications, endless content streams, perpetual connectivity, rapid context switching. All of this creates mental noise that drowns out intuitive signals. Intuition is subtle. It doesn't compete with the loud, urgent stimuli that fill modern experience. A quiet sense that something is important can't compete with the ping of a new message or the pull of social media. This is one reason many people feel disconnected from their intuition. It's not that their intuitive capacity has diminished. It's that the signal-to-noise ratio has become unfavorable. Cognitive biases. While intuition is sophisticated, it's not infallible. Your brain's pattern recognition can be systematically biased in predictable ways. Confirmation bias makes you notice patterns that confirm existing beliefs while overlooking contradictory patterns. Your intuition might tell you someone is untrustworthy because they remind you of someone from your past, not because of anything they've actually done. Availability bias gives extra weight to patterns that are easy to recall, usually because they're recent, dramatic, or emotionally charged. This can make your intuition overly influenced by vivid experiences that may not be representative. Stereotyping is pattern recognition gone wrong, applying group-level statistical patterns to individuals, ignoring the rich variation within any group. Your brain might flag someone as dangerous based on superficial characteristics that have no actual predictive value. Anchoring causes your intuition to be overly influenced by initial information, even when subsequent information should update your assessment. These biases aren't easily overcome because they're built into how pattern recognition works. Awareness helps, but the biases remain powerful. Emotional interference. While emotion is essential to intuition, strong emotions can also interfere with it. When you're angry, anxious, or deeply sad, your emotional state colors everything, making it difficult to distinguish genuine intuitive signals from emotional noise. Fear, in particular, can create false intuitions. Pattern recognition systems are biased toward detecting threats, an evolutionary adaptation that kept our ancestors alive. But this bias means fear can make neutral situations seem dangerous, creating intuitive warnings that aren't based on actual patterns. Similarly, desire can create pseudo-intuitions. When you want something badly, your brain can construct patterns that justify the desired action, even when more objective pattern recognition would suggest caution. Fatigue and depletion. Decision fatigue impairs intuition. As you make more decisions throughout the day, your capacity for subtle pattern recognition diminishes. Late in the day, after many choices, your intuition becomes less reliable. This is why important decisions are often best made early in the day, when your mental resources are fresh. It's also why judges show bias in their rulings that correlates with time of day and proximity to meals. Their intuitive judgments become impaired as they become depleted. Part 7. Strengthening your intuitive capacity, creating space for signals. The first step in strengthening intuition is creating space for intuitive signals to emerge. This means intentionally reducing mental noise and stress. Regular quiet time is essential. This doesn't necessarily mean formal meditation, though that certainly helps. It means periods when you're not consuming content, not problem-solving, not engaged in demanding tasks. Walking without podcasts, sitting quietly with morning coffee, looking out the window during a break. In these quiet moments, your mind can wander, your subconscious can process, and intuitive insights can surface. Many people report that their best insights come during walks, in the shower, or just before sleep, times when the mind is relaxed but gently active. Single-tasking supports intuition by allowing deeper engagement with experience. When you multitask, you skim across the surface of experiences, preventing the deep processing that builds intuitive patterns. When you single-task, giving full attention to one thing at a time, you create richer experiential traces. Digital boundaries matter more than many people realize. Constant digital engagement keeps your mind in a state of low-level activation that blocks subtle signals. Creating phone-free time, especially in the evening before sleep, allows your nervous system to downregulate. The practice of body awareness. Since intuition often communicates through bodily sensations, developing body awareness strengthens your capacity to receive intuitive signals. Body scan practices train you to notice subtle physical sensations. Regularly checking in with your body, noticing areas of tension, openness, ease, or discomfort, helps you recognize the physical component of intuitive signals. Breath awareness provides a bridge between conscious and subconscious processing. Your breath responds to subtle shifts in your internal state before you consciously notice them. Learning to notice breath changes can alert you to intuitive signals. Somatic practices like yoga, tai chi, or simply mindful movement help integrate body and mind, making intuitive body-based signals more accessible. The goal isn't to become hyper-focused on bodily sensations in a way that creates anxiety. Rather, it's to develop a background awareness that can detect significant signals without constant monitoring. Learning from outcomes. Your intuition improves when you pay attention to results and learn from them. Track your intuitive hits and misses. When you have a strong intuitive feeling, note it. Then observe what happens. Was your intuition accurate? If so, what patterns might you have detected? If not, what led you astray? This feedback loop is how experts develop reliable intuition. A doctor learns to trust certain clinical intuitions because they consistently prove accurate. An investor learns which gut feelings about companies are reliable and which are influenced by irrelevant factors. Reflect on decision outcomes. Periodically review significant decisions. What role did intuition play? How did it interact with deliberate analysis? What would you do differently knowing what you know now? This reflection isn't about self-criticism. It's about calibrating your intuitive system, helping your brain learn which patterns are reliable predictors and which are misleading. Seek objective feedback when possible. In many situations, you can get clear feedback about whether your intuition was accurate. Use this information to refine your pattern recognition. Gradual trust building. If you've learned to distrust your intuition, rebuilding that trust should be gradual. Start with low-stakes decisions. Practice noticing and following intuitive signals in situations where the consequences of being wrong are minimal. Which route to take home? Which item to order from a menu? Which book to read next? These small decisions provide opportunities to notice intuitive signals without the anxiety that comes with high-stakes choices. You're building the skill of distinguishing intuition from other mental noise. Notice without always acting. You don't have to follow every intuitive signal to benefit from noticing it. Sometimes the practice is simply observing. I notice a sense of unease about this situation. Interesting. This observation itself trains your pattern recognition. Combine intuition with verification. In important decisions, let intuition suggest directions, then verify with analysis. Over time, you'll learn when your intuition tends to be reliable and when it needs more support. Diverse experience. Your intuitive capacity grows with the richness and diversity of your experiences. Seek varied experiences. Expose yourself to different situations, people, environments, and challenges. Each new experience adds to your pattern library. Read widely. Books provide vicarious experience, allowing you to absorb patterns from lives and situations you haven't directly encountered. Fiction, in particular, builds your social intuition by immersing you in other perspectives. Embrace challenge. Operating outside your comfort zone accelerates pattern learning. When you're challenged, you're forced to pay closer attention, creating richer experiential traces. Learn new skills. Each new skill you develop adds new dimensions to your pattern recognition. Learning a language enhances your intuition about communication. Learning an instrument develops your auditory pattern recognition. Learning to cook builds intuition about flavor combinations. The role of sleep. Sleep isn't just rest. It's when your brain consolidates learning and integrates experiences into patterns. During sleep, particularly during REM sleep, your brain replays experiences, strengthening connections, and integrating new information with existing patterns. This process is essential for intuitive development. Prioritize sleep quality. Regular sleep schedules, dark sleeping environments, and good sleep hygiene support the consolidation process that builds intuition. Value the hypnagogic state. The transition between waking and sleeping is particularly fertile for insight. Many creative breakthroughs and intuitive realizations occur in this liminal state. Keeping a notebook by your bed to capture these insights can be valuable. Trust insights after sleep. There's wisdom in the advice to sleep on it before making important decisions. Your brain continues processing during sleep, often leading to clearer intuitive understanding in the morning. Part 8. Distinguishing intuition from other mental phenomena. Intuition versus impulse. Not every feeling is intuition. Learning to distinguish intuition from other mental phenomena is crucial for using it effectively. Impulses are reactive and urgent. They demand immediate action. They often arise from temporary emotional states or physiological drives. An impulse might be the urge to eat an entire cake, to lash out in anger, or to make an impulsive purchase. Impulses are characterized by urgency and intensity. Resistance to delay. Emotional charge often regretted, afterward connected to immediate gratification. Intuition, by contrast, is calm and patient. It doesn't demand immediate action. It suggests rather than insists. It remains present even when you pause to consider it. Intuition is characterized by quiet persistence, emotional neutrality, or mild emotion comfort with waiting clarity that often increases with reflection, connection to pattern recognition rather than immediate desire. The key difference: impulses push you. Intuition guides you. Intuition versus anxiety. Anxiety can masquerade as intuition, creating false alarms that feel like meaningful signals. Anxiety generates a sense that something is wrong, but this sense isn't based on actual pattern recognition. Instead, it reflects your nervous system state. When you're anxious, everything can seem threatening, not because genuine threats are present, but because your threat detection system is hyperactivated. Signs you're experiencing anxiety rather than intuition. The feeling is vague and diffuse rather than specific. It persists regardless of changes in circumstances. It amplifies when you focus on it. It's accompanied by physical tension and arousal. It doesn't lead to insight or clarity. Similar feelings appear across many unrelated situations. True intuition is specific. It relates to particular situations or choices. It doesn't spread anxiety across your entire experience. And importantly, when you address the situation your intuition is highlighting, the signal resolves. Intuition versus wishful thinking. Desire can create pseudo-intuitions that feel convincing but aren't based on actual patterns. When you deeply want something to be true, your brain can construct a narrative that feels like intuitive knowing. You might feel certain a romantic relationship will work out, that an investment will succeed, or that a risky choice will pay off. Not because your pattern recognition supports this conclusion, but because your desire shapes your perception. Wishful thinking masquerading as intuition shows these characteristics. It aligns perfectly with what you want. It dismisses contrary evidence. It resists testing or verification. It becomes stronger when challenged. Others can often see problems you're missing. Genuine intuition can certainly support desired outcomes, but it doesn't ignore contrary patterns. It can deliver unwelcome messages. It often includes nuance. Yes, but be aware of X. rather than unconditional certainty. To distinguish them, ask yourself, would I have this same feeling if I didn't want this particular outcome? Am I considering evidence that contradicts this feeling? What would someone uninvested in this outcome intuit? Intuition versus social conditioning. Sometimes what feels like intuition is actually internalized social conditioning, beliefs absorbed from your culture, family, or community that feel like personal insight but are really learned scripts. For example, someone might have an intuitive sense that they should follow a particular career path, have children by a certain age, or avoid certain types of people. But on examination, these intuitions perfectly match social messages they've absorbed throughout life. Social conditioning disguised as intuition matches common cultural scripts appeared without personal experience, creates shame or judgment toward alternatives, sounds like should or supposed to, weakens when questioned. Actual intuition arises from personal pattern recognition, may contradict social expectations, feels personally true even if unconventional, becomes clearer with questioning, creates a sense of alignment rather than obligation. Intuition versus cognitive bias. As discussed earlier, cognitive biases can create false intuitions based on systematic errors in pattern recognition. The challenge is that biased intuitions feel exactly like genuine ones. Your brain doesn't tag certain intuitions as, this one might be biased. All intuitions arrive with similar subjective characteristics. Protecting against biased intuition requires awareness of common biases, seeking diverse perspectives, deliberately considering alternative interpretations, testing intuitions against objective data, when possible staying humble about your own potential for error. This doesn't mean dismissing all intuition as potentially biased. It means holding intuition as valuable information that should be considered alongside other sources of insight. Part 9. Intuition in specific domains. Interpersonal intuition. Some of your most powerful intuitions involve other people. You can often sense someone's emotional state, trustworthiness, or intentions from subtle cues. Social intuition develops from years of social interaction. Your brain has learned patterns of behavior, microexpressions, tone of voice, and body language that reveal what people are thinking and feeling. When you meet someone and immediately feel comfortable or uneasy, your brain has processed thousands of subtle signals. Their eye contact patterns, facial expressions, posture, vocal tone, word choice, and countless other variables. The conclusion arrives as a feeling because the processing is too complex for conscious awareness. Enhancing interpersonal intuition. Pay attention to people's nonverbal communication. Notice when words and body language don't match. Observe patterns in how people behave across different contexts. Read literature that explores human psychology and motivation. Seek feedback about your social perceptions. Limitations to remember. Social intuition is heavily influenced by your own social experiences, which may not generalize to people from different backgrounds. Cultural differences in emotional expression can create false intuitions. Your own emotional state colors your perception of others, and stereotyping can corrupt social intuition, leading to biased assessments. Creative intuition. Artists, writers, musicians, and other creative professionals rely heavily on intuition. The creative process involves allowing the subconscious to make unexpected connections between patterns. Creative intuition works by combining existing patterns in novel ways. When a solution to a creative problem suddenly appears, it's because your subconscious has been working on it, trying different combinations until something clicks. This is why creative breakthroughs often arrive during rest or during unrelated activities. Your conscious mind stops trying to force solutions, allowing your subconscious to work freely. Supporting creative intuition. Immerse yourself in your creative domain. Study widely within your field. Expose yourself to diverse influences. Work on problems intensively, then let them rest. Trust your immediate creative responses before second-guessing them. Create conditions for flow states where intuition can guide your work. Professional intuition. In professional contexts, intuition is often called business sense, clinical judgment, or professional judgment. It's the expertise that allows professionals to make good decisions quickly. Medical intuition. Experienced physicians often know a diagnosis before completing their analysis, then use testing to confirm. They've seen thousands of patients, and their brain recognizes patterns of symptoms instantly. Business intuition. Experienced entrepreneurs and executives develop intuition about market opportunities, team dynamics, strategic decisions, and risk assessment. This intuition comes from years of observing what works and what doesn't. Teaching intuition, veteran teachers intuitively know when students understand, when they're confused, when they're engaged, and when they're struggling with non-academic issues. This intuition guides moment-to-moment teaching decisions. Limitations in professional intuition. Professional intuition works best in relatively stable environments with clear feedback. When environments change rapidly or feedback is delayed or ambiguous, intuition becomes less reliable. Also, professional intuition doesn't automatically transfer to other domains. Being brilliant at your profession doesn't make your personal life intuitions equally reliable. Moral intuition. You have immediate intuitive responses to ethical situations. You can instantly sense that certain actions are wrong, even if you can't immediately articulate why. Moral intuition reflects deep patterns about social cooperation, fairness, harm, and care that your brain has learned throughout development. These intuitions serve an important function, alerting you to ethical dimensions of situations. However, moral intuition is also shaped by cultural learning and can reflect biases or limitations in your moral education. Different cultures have different moral intuitions about the same situations. Using moral intuition wisely means taking your moral feelings seriously as important information, recognizing they can be influenced by bias or limited experience, supporting intuitive moral responses with careful reflection, staying open to perspectives that challenge your moral intuitions, distinguishing between genuine moral concerns and mere discomfort with unfamiliarity. Part 10. The integration of intuition and RESONY both are necessary. The most powerful thinking emerges when intuition and rational analysis work together. Neither is sufficient alone. Pure intuition without rational examination can lead you astray. Intuition is based on pattern recognition, and those patterns might be biased, incomplete, or applied inappropriately to new situations. Intuition also can't easily explain itself, making it difficult to identify when it's leading you wrong. Pure analysis without intuitive input becomes paralyzed by complexity. Real-world decisions involve too many variables, too much uncertainty, and too many unknown factors for pure logic to handle. Analysis needs intuition to narrow the possibility space, suggesting which options deserve analytical attention. The partnership works like this. Intuition quickly generates possibilities and assessments based on pattern recognition. Reason examines these suggestions, tests them against evidence, considers alternatives, and identifies potential flaws. Intuition then responds to this analysis, perhaps updating its assessment based on new considerations. The dance between systems. In practice, intuition and reason don't work sequentially, they interact dynamically. You might start with an intuitive sense about a decision. Analysis explores that intuition, discovering both supporting evidence and potential problems. This analytical process updates your intuitive sense, perhaps making it stronger or introducing doubt. Further analysis responds to the updated intuition. The process continues, each mode informing the other. Expert decision-makers have learned to orchestrate this dance skillfully. They trust their intuitions enough to take them seriously, but they question those intuitions enough to catch errors. They use analysis to test and refine intuition, not to replace it. When to emphasize intuition. Some situations favor intuitive decision-making. Time pressure. When quick decisions are necessary, intuition is faster than analysis. Trust your expertise and decide. Complex patterns. When situations involve many interrelated variables that are difficult to analyze consciously, intuition may see patterns analysis misses. Personal preferences. For decisions about personal taste, what art you like, which career feels right, whom you want to spend time with, intuition often knows better than analysis. Novel situations. When facing genuinely new situations where past analysis frameworks don't apply, intuition can detect relevant patterns from analogous experiences. High expertise. In domains where you have extensive experience, your intuition has rich patterns to draw from and deserves strong weight. when to emphasize analysis. Other situations favor analytical thinking. High stakes. When decisions have serious consequences, slow down and analyze carefully, even if intuition points clearly in one direction. Counterintuitive domains. Some domains don't work the way intuition expects. Statistics, for example, often produces results that violate intuition. In these areas, trust the math. Bias risk. When you might be biased by desire, by fear, by social pressure, analytical thinking can identify bias that intuition can't see in itself. Low experience. In domains where you're a novice, your intuition hasn't developed reliable patterns yet. Rely more heavily on analysis and the guidance of experts. Collaborative decisions. When working with others, analytical thinking provides shared frameworks that everyone can examine together. Pure intuition is difficult to communicate and coordinate. Building integrated wisdom. The highest form of decision-making integrates both modes seamlessly. This integrated wisdom shows certain characteristics. Comfort with ambiguity. Wisdom accepts that many situations don't have clear right answers. Both intuition and analysis have something to contribute, even when they point in different directions. Intellectual humility. Wisdom recognizes that both intuitive and analytical thinking can be wrong. It holds conclusions provisionally, staying open to new information. Contextual flexibility. Wisdom adjusts the balance between intuition and analysis based on circumstances, rather than rigidly preferring one mode. Learning orientation. Wisdom treats both successful and unsuccessful decisions as learning opportunities, continuously refining both intuitive and analytical capacities. Integration. At the highest level, the distinction between intuition and analysis fades. You think with your whole mind, not compartmentalized into separate systems. Feelings inform thoughts, thoughts refine feelings, and decisions emerge from integrated processing. Part 11. Cultivating a life that supports intuition. The importance of rhythm. Human beings are rhythmic creatures, and intuition thrives within healthy rhythms. Daily rhythms. Your intuitive capacity varies throughout the day. For most people, it's strongest in the morning after sleep has consolidated learning, and weakens as decision fatigue accumulates. Structure important decisions and creative work during your peak intuitive hours. Weekly rhythms. Building regular patterns into your week. Certain days for certain types of work, consistent times for exercise, regular social connection. Creates predictability that frees mental resources for intuitive processing. Seasonal rhythms. Honoring natural cycles of activity and rest throughout the year supports sustained intuitive capacity. Periods of intense engagement need to alternate with periods of recovery and integration. Work-rest cycles. Intuition requires both engagement and rest. Work deeply, then rest completely. Half attention and chronic multitasking drain intuitive capacity without building it. Solitude and silence. Regular solitude is essential for intuitive development. In solitude, without external demands or social performance, you can hear subtle internal signals. Solitude isn't loneliness. Solitude is chosen time alone for restoration and reflection. It's different from isolation or loneliness, which are states of unwanted disconnection. What solitude provides: space for unstructured thinking, freedom from social performance, access to authentic feelings and preferences, time for integration of experiences, opportunity for self-knowledge to develop. Many people avoid solitude, filling every moment with content, connection, or activity. This avoidance may prevent uncomfortable feelings, but it also blocks intuitive development. Silence complements solitude. In our noise-saturated world, silence is rare and valuable. Silence allows your nervous system to reset, your mind to clear, and intuitive signals to emerge from the background. Even brief periods of silence, a few minutes between activities, a quiet morning before the day's demands begin, create space for intuition. Nature and movement. Connection with nature and physical movement both support intuitive capacity in powerful ways. Nature exposure. Time in natural environments reduces stress, lowers cognitive load, and shifts brain activity in ways that support intuition. Walking in nature, particularly without digital distraction, is one of the most reliable ways to access intuitive insight. Research shows that nature exposure reduces rumination and mental looping, enhances creative problem-solving, improves mood, and reduces anxiety, restores attention capacity, facilitates access to deeper processing. Movement. Physical activity, especially rhythmic movement like walking, running, swimming, or dancing, can unlock intuitive insights. Many people report that solutions to problems arrive during exercise. Movement works by reducing stress and anxiety, creating a meditative state, changing your physical and mental state, allowing subconscious processing, generating varied sensory experience. The combination, walking in nature, is particularly powerful for intuitive insight. Creative expression. Engaging in creative activities, regardless of skill level, strengthens intuition. Why creativity supports intuition. Creative work requires accessing subconscious processing. Whether you're painting, writing, making music, or crafting, you're practicing the skill of listening to subtle internal signals and translating them into form. Creative activities also build comfort with ambiguity and emergence, strengthen the connection between conscious and subconscious, develop trust in nonlinear processes, exercise pattern recognition in new domains, create conditions for flow states. You don't need to be good at creative activities to benefit from them. The practice itself develops intuitive capacity, regardless of the quality of what you produce. Relationships and community. While solitude is essential, relationships also play a crucial role in intuitive development. Honest relationships. Deep, authentic relationships where you can be fully yourself provide feedback that helps calibrate your social intuition. Friends and loved ones can mirror back aspects of yourself you can't see directly. Diverse perspectives. Exposure to people different from yourself challenges your pattern recognition, helping you distinguish universal patterns from culturally specific ones. This diversity enriches your intuitive database. Collaborative thinking. Thinking alongside others, especially those who think differently, can reveal intuitive insights you wouldn't access alone. Good collaboration creates a shared mind greater than the sum of individual minds. Trusted feedback. Having people you trust who can give you honest feedback about your intuitive hits and misses helps refine your pattern recognition over time. Values and alignment. Intuition works best when you have clarity about your values and live in alignment with them. Why values matter for intuition. Your values act as a guidance system, helping your subconscious evaluate options. When you're clear about what matters to you, your intuition can more effectively signal which choices align with those values. Conversely, when you're disconnected from your values or living in contradiction to them, intuitive signals become confused. You might get mixed messages because different parts of your value system are in conflict. Developing value clarity. Reflect on what truly matters to you. Notice what energizes versus depletes you. Identify patterns in your regrets and satisfactions. Clarify priorities. When values conflict, regularly reassess as you grow and change. Living in alignment. When your actions align with your values, you experience a sense of rightness, a feeling of flow and authenticity. This alignment creates coherence in your intuitive system, making signals clearer and more reliable. Part 12. Common questions and challenges. I don't think I have intuition. Everyone has intuition. It's a basic function of how brains work. What varies is how well you recognize intuitive signals, how much you trust them, how developed they are in different domains, how cluttered your mental space is. If you feel disconnected from intuition, it's likely that signals are being generated but not reaching conscious awareness, or reaching awareness but being dismissed or ignored. Start by simply noticing. Do you ever have gut feelings? Do you ever just know something without being able to explain why? Do you ever sense something about a person or situation before having conscious evidence? Most likely, you do have these experiences but haven't been naming them as intuition. My intuition is always wrong. If your intuitions consistently lead you astray, several factors might be at play. You're misidentifying other phenomena as intuition. Perhaps what you're calling intuition is actually anxiety, wishful thinking, or impulse. Review the distinctions we discussed earlier. You're operating outside your domain. Intuition is domain-specific. Your intuitions might be accurate in some areas but not in the domains where you're paying attention to them. You're in a rapidly changing environment. Intuition based on past patterns doesn't work well when fundamental patterns have changed. The world you're navigating might be too different from the world where you built your patterns. Cognitive biases are corrupting your pattern recognition. Systematic biases might be leading to consistent errors. Identifying which specific biases affect you can help. You need more experience. In areas where you're relatively new, your intuition hasn't had time to develop reliable patterns yet. The solution isn't to abandon intuition but to calibrate it better, understanding where it works and where it needs support. How do I know when to trust my intuition? This is perhaps the most important question. Trust should be calibrated. Trust intuition more when you have extensive experience in the relevant domain. The stakes are relatively low. You need to decide quickly. The situation involves complex patterns difficult to analyze. Your track record in similar situations is good. Trust intuition less when you're a novice in the relevant area. The stakes are very high. You have time for careful analysis. You might be biased by desire or fear. The domain is counterintuitive. Your track record shows consistent errors. The balanced approach. Take intuition seriously as important information while also examining it critically. Ask yourself, where might this intuition be coming from? What patterns might it be detecting? Where might it be wrong? What other sources of information should I consider? Intuition feels scary, like losing control. For people accustomed to relying primarily on logical analysis, trusting intuition can feel frightening. It requires accepting conclusions without fully understanding their origin. This fear is understandable but often based on a misunderstanding. Trusting intuition doesn't mean abandoning critical thinking or acting impulsively. It means acknowledging that your subconscious processing is also you, recognizing that not all intelligence operates through conscious reasoning, using all available resources, not just one mode of thinking. You can trust intuition while still examining intuitive suggestions, critically seeking additional information, testing intuitions against evidence, moving at a pace that feels comfortable. Start small. Practice trusting intuition in low-stakes situations where being wrong doesn't matter much. As you build experience with how your intuition works, trust will feel less scary. What if my intuition conflicts with others' advice? This is a common and difficult situation. Your intuition points one direction, but people you trust recommend something different. Consider, what domain expertise does each party have? Might you have relevant pattern recognition others lack? Might others see patterns you're missing? Could you all be right but prioritizing different values? What are the consequences of following each path? Sometimes your intuition is detecting something important that others can't see because they don't have your specific experiences and perspective. Sometimes others' advice highlights blind spots in your own thinking. The answer isn't always to follow your intuition over others' advice, or vice versa. Often the best path emerges from genuine dialogue, where you understand the reasoning behind different perspectives and integrate multiple sources of insight. Can intuition be developed too much? In a sense, no, you can't have too much access to your subconscious pattern recognition. But you can become unbalanced. Over-reliance on intuition can lead to neglecting valuable analytical thinking, becoming difficult to work with, others can't follow your reasoning, missing opportunities to catch your own biases, making errors in domains where your intuition isn't reliable. The goal isn't maximum intuition but optimal integration of intuitive and analytical thinking. Develop your intuitive capacity while maintaining strong analytical skills and knowing when to emphasize each mode. Closing. Living with INTUITIO and the lifelong journey. Developing intuition isn't a project you complete. It's a lifelong journey of learning to access and trust your own deeper intelligence. As you accumulate more experience, your intuitive capacity naturally grows. But this growth requires attention. You must create the conditions, space, reflection, rest, diverse experience that allow intuition to develop. You must also remain humble. Intuition is powerful but not infallible. The wisest approach holds both deep trust and healthy skepticism, honoring intuitive insights while remaining open to being wrong. Integration into daily life. The practices and principles we've explored aren't meant to be additional burdens on your already full life. Instead, they're invitations to subtle shifts, creating more space for quiet, noticing your body signals, reflecting on experience, moving in nature, resting properly, living in alignment with your values. These aren't extraordinary practices. They're basic elements of human well-being that modern life often crowds out. Reclaiming them supports not just intuition but overall flourishing. The quiet voice. Intuition will never shout. It doesn't compete with the urgent, the loud, or the insistent. It waits for moments of receptivity, for spaces of quiet, for your attention to turn inward. This quietness isn't a weakness. It's a feature. Intuition arises from deep processing, from the part of you that sees patterns, connects experiences, and understands in ways that transcend language. This depth requires gentleness to access. When you create conditions for listening through quiet, through presence, through trust, intuition responds. Not with answers to every question, but with guidance. A sense of direction. A feeling of rightness or wrongness. A quiet knowing that helps you navigate complexity. Trust the process. Your brain is already doing the work of pattern recognition. It's been doing this work since before you were born. Intuition isn't something you need to create. It's something you need to learn to hear. This learning takes time. It requires patience with yourself, especially if you're reconnecting with intuition after years of dismissing it. It requires self-compassion when your intuition leads you astray, understanding that even experts make errors. But gradually, with attention and practice, the connection strengthens. Intuitive signals become clearer. Your trust becomes better calibrated. The collaboration between your intuitive and analytical mind becomes more seamless. The gift of inner wisdom. Within you exists a form of intelligence that doesn't require effort, that works continuously, that sees patterns you cannot consciously trace. This intelligence is shaped by every experience you've ever had. Contains the wisdom of your whole life. Learning to access this intelligence, to trust it appropriately, to integrate it with conscious reasoning, this is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. It won't make decision-making easy. Life remains complex, ambiguous, and uncertain, but it makes you more whole, more integrated, more able to navigate with all your capacities engaged. Final reflection. As you move forward, remember, your intuition is already present. You don't need to acquire it, only to recognize it. It speaks in subtle ways, through feelings, through body sensations, through sudden knowing. Learn its language. It requires space to be heard. Create quiet in your life. It grows with experience and reflection. Pay attention to outcomes and learn from them. It works best in partnership with conscious reasoning. Don't abandon analysis, but don't ignore intuitive insight either. It deserves both trust and questioning. Honor it without surrendering your critical faculties. Most importantly, intuition is part of you. It's not foreign or mystical. It's your own deeper intelligence, always working, always available, waiting for you to listen. The journey of developing intuition is really a journey of developing relationship with yourself, with the parts of your mind that work beneath awareness, with the wisdom accumulated through living, with the intelligence that manifests as quiet knowing. This relationship deepens throughout life, becoming richer with experience, more nuanced with reflection, more reliable with practice. Your intuition is a gift. Learn to receive it well. Rest now. Your subconscious continues learning, continues processing, continues building the patterns that will serve you tomorrow. Trust the process. Trust the quiet voice. Trust yourself.